Welcome, everybody, to the Rook and the Kid podcast. This is our first official episode of the fall season. This is something that me and the kid have been waiting for since we started the pod, January 31st, 8:04 p.m., 35 minutes, 23 seconds of this year. Per usual, I'm your host, Jared May, the Rook, and I'm joined by Hunter Poole, the Kid. And we are here to slam dunk the start of football. We got a couple things on slate for you guys. Dak on Track segment, all things Dak. We got TRAKing the Boyz, which is tracking the Cowboys. We got the deluxe headlines. We got the track records, the rankings, diamond, platinum, gold. We got it all. Plus an additional, we got the guests coming in here in just a minute. But before we do that, Hunter, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Just back at the Rent's house. Did a bunch of yard work today. Just sitting on the floor, ready to rock and roll, baby.
Bro, this was probably the worst day to actually be working out in the heat. I mean, I think it was like 107 heat index today in Texas. Nuts.
Yeah, but you do what you gotta do.
I was down there in your neck of the woods today, down there in LaPorte. There's at least a little bit of wind down there. Over in Texas or Houston, it's like air quality alert all the time. You're basically choking on mustard gas while you're working.
Yeah, it was like when I was driving back to Corpus yesterday. Your father hit me with a call, and I had to roll up my windows, no AC. He's like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "Oh, it's going pretty good." I'm like starting to get a heat stroke, and he was just like, "No, yeah," and I was like, "I'm sorry, I got."
Did it turn back on while he was calling you?
No, it didn't turn on to about 45 minutes after that. Then it was
okay.
Not halfway, but
yeah, call from Brandon. Yeah.
Brandon May.
All right, well, super stoked to be back. Obviously, we're not on our regular scheduled Wednesday program, but we had a lot of prep to do before we released this episode. We've been super excited to get this organization started. This is kind of the beginning of the TRAK network. So keep in mind, at the end of every month, we're aiming to do, I'm 99% certain this will happen, a monthly fantasy football press conference. It's optional for the league that me and the rest, all three of us, will be commissioning. So that'll be fun. Keep in mind, that'll be a live event. That's something that'll happen on a live stream. So anyway, without further ado, we want to welcome back some special guests, some special delegated contributors. We've got the medical guy and the analyst returning to the TRAK podcast. Welcome back, fellas.
What's going on?
We're back. Football is back.
Football is back.
It's back, boys.
We got some of the true brand rocking. We got that East Texas hitter, and we got that South Texas coastal bend. Yeah. Can't bluff a bluffer. Yes, sir. I wanted to wear that one, but I was rocking that. We're talking a little baseball today, so I wanted to represent the first. Yeah, it's nice. Represent the first place in the AL West currently.
Imagine being a Rangers fan. That's great.
Imagine being a Houston fan. You expand a little bit outside of Minute Maid Park, and you have no interest in any sport. So, I mean, it's a pretty vacant sport franchise down there in Houston. But the Astros are the golden child, and I don't blame them. But we'll get into that later. How are you guys doing down there, y'all? I mean, everything good in life? And we got anything we should know about, or
working? Being a working man.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Football started back. As we'll get in the intros, I work with football. One of my sports. It started back. It's hot. It's very hot. So yeah, just working, sweating.
What time of your practice is that?
Interesting enough, they're from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Outside of today, practice started at 6:30 a.m. So yesterday we did a night practice, ended at 10, and turned it around and had a 6:30 a.m. practice. So had to get a nice nap in today. So I'm good to go for the pod.
Hell yeah! Well, we appreciate y'all being back on. Obviously, I want to give everybody a quick little introduction to what the medical guy and the analyst will be doing. So the medical guy is going to be specializing in medical analysis. Duh. But any type of NFL injury that happens, he'll be the first to cover it here on the TRAK podcast exclusively. And then, of course, we got the credit analyst who specializes in statistical analysis. This is your shattering the scripted agenda sort of statistical movement. So we're happy to have you guys on. And to get us started on this podcast, we want to talk about Dak on Track. This is our Dak on Track segment, all things Dakota Rain Prescott. I know, Hunter, you're probably a little upset that there isn't a Romo Sapien segment. Unfortunately, we missed that window. But we got Dak today. So to get us started on the Dak report, we wanted to start with our 2022 summary, and we kind of analyze his previous season. Obviously, we went 12-5 last year, and we've already talked a lot of, me and Hunter together have talked a lot of Dallas Cowboys ball since we moved to Spotify. But just a kind of little quick rundown from last year. So he broke his throwing thumb in week 1 against the Bucs, and we thought all life as we know it was over, especially when we throw him out there with Dennis Houston and Simi Fehoko as his wide receiver 1 and 2. Had injuries to both starting tackles that missed significant time, resulting in a 28th ranked pass protection rate in the NFL. Wide receiver 2 obviously was a banged up Gallup. We had Noah Brown. 7 of Dak interceptions occurred on non-turnover worthy plays, according to PFF.
9 of those were tipped.
9 of those were tipped. So yeah, I'll start with Ryan here. I want to ask you, what are your expectations for Dak Prescott for the 2023 NFL season? What do you want to see? What do you think we will see? And how do you expect Dak will adjust to an offense that he's orchestrating? Kind of all one question, but different avenues you can go with there.
Well, I guess for start, the one that everybody talks about is the turnovers. We've had this conversation together multiple times. Dak as a quarterback is not a turnover machine. He's actually, if you go look at all of his stats compared to the other quarterbacks, the only one that turns the ball over less than he does in terms of per pass ratios is actually Aaron Rodgers, and he's ahead of the game by far. So he's right there with Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Patrick Mahomes has him beat, but he's right there with the rest of them. So I think the concern moving forward for a lot of Cowboys fans is the turnovers. And, last year he did struggle with that, and we're all, able to admit that. But it's really hard to do that when you're throwing in the tightest windows with not great passing coverage, pass protection. So in terms of this next year, I think what they're really going to help him with is this new offense that they're calling the Texas Coast. It's a variation of the West Coast. And if you know football, that's a lot of quick reactions from the quarterback. And I think, in the past, you've seen Dak, when he starts getting in his rhythm, it's when he gets to make his own decisions. And I think when you see Dak at his best, it's when he's walking up to the center, calling out a linebacker, takes a step back, and then he's drilling a ball over the middle. That's when he's at his best. So you've heard Mike McCarthy say it in interviews at the camp right now that he's, they're letting him take the playbook. And I think if you're, a Dak criticizer, this is what you want to see. Is this the guy? And I think that's the question that everybody has is who is the guy? And if you really want to pay the guy that you're, trying to decide if he is or not, put it in his hands and see what he can do and set him up good. So they got him some receivers, and we'll see where it goes from there. I won't take all the points, but that's my reaction for Dak's upcoming year. So
yeah, for sure. And so Jacob, I'll ask you. So obviously Ryan talked about a little bit about how McCarthy's comments on the Texas Coast offense, and so CeeDee Lamb had a couple comments on 105.3 The Fan. This is on John Machota's account. So he's very aggressive. And I quote, he's very aggressive and he's looking for the deep ball now. And as you saw on Saturday, it's up there. So if you're not going to back up, this is a warning to everybody. If you're not going to back up, good luck. And then Lamb also on the offensive changes. Really not much. Different play calling, of course, but it's just a lot simpler. All the offense is in Dak's hands now. However, he's feeling versus the coverage. If he likes the matchup, we're going to call that play. If he likes whatever he likes versus zone, he's going to call that play. So technically, it's all in Dak's hands. We're moving much faster at a different pace. How do you feel about those comments that CeeDee Lamb presented about the offense, like Ryan mentioned earlier, offense being all in Dak's hands? It's orchestrated by him, kind of like it was for Romo a couple years back.
Well, Jared, that last bit of your comment right there kind of took the bit of my talking point right there about the Romo part, because it's ironic how a couple weeks ago on one of the podcasts that some of the, I think it was SB Nation or Bag Nation did with Terrence Williams, how he said when plays were called when Tony Romo was quarterback, Tony Romo would be like, "Nah, screw this, we're doing this play." And so I think we're kind of, it sounds very similar when CeeDee Lamb says that. It's like they've gotten to the point, and like you said, it's like, this is Dak's team. This is Dak's offense. Like I have it written down about control and engagement of the offense. It's like almost like they're calling a play, and then whatever Dak sees, whatever he goes with, that's what they're going with. And so that's just everything they've talked about is kind of pointed towards that. It's like Dak's kind of having, it's like OC, and then OC number 2 is really like Dak, like making the play call. So it's like it is good to see, but like you said, that's where some of these quarterbacks separate themselves with what they can do, kind of at the line and kind of in the heat of the moment. And that's what made Romo like really well, is that he could get up there, see whatever was going, and that's where you see with him in the booth right now, is he can look just from however far he is away right now and kind of determine what everybody's going to do. And so I think it's really going to be, it's kind of all on Dak right now. So, and that's kind of what we all wanted on both sides of the argument.
Yeah. And then Hunter, that's perfect transition, because it's something that I feel like you would love to talk about. So Jacob was talking about how it's all on Dak. There's no more scapegoats left. We talked about how Romo orchestrated the offense. He was an absolute commander in chief back in the day. We all loved watching Romo play. How comfortable do you feel now that Dak has that full reign of the offense, and there are no more scapegoats? Like, how do you feel with that? Are you comfortable with it? Like, what's your analysis on the whole thing?
I am very comfortable with it. I wouldn't say I have a problem with it. To go with that, the only thing my biggest issue I would have a problem with, not actually a problem, it's more of, can he stay healthy? Because they got him ready to, they're banking on him being healthy. The last couple of years, he's been struggling to stay healthy. Don't wish injury upon anybody, but when you start running an offense to where the starting quarterback is gonna control it, what are they gonna do when if Cooper Rush has to play, or Will Grier, someone like that? But with when he has Brandon Cooks, he has CeeDee Lamb, hopefully a healthy Tony Pollard. I do think you should let him, orchestrate that. I do think they should have maybe a backup plan as well. Because going back to, the turnover thing, it's not. I don't think Dak has like turnover issues. Last year, I think he did.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, I wasn't worried about like the tip balls or anything. I was more worried about the plays that didn't happen where you can't see it on a box score, or unless you watch the game. Those like kind of, why are you throwing that?
Right.
And it all kind of, I think it all boils down to when he's hurt. Because 2 years ago, after he came back from the leg, he was playing like an MVP. He was actually favored over Joe Burrow in the, what's it called, the MVP ranking.
Yeah.
And that's when he hurt his calf. After that calf injury, he never actually looked the same. And it all goes back to a mental, because he's like, I've already had a really bad injury with my ankle. Then I had the calf. He's like, then I had the thumb. And then when he came back from the thumb, he wasn't all there. And then he hyperextended his knee in the playoff game, which he played awesome against the Bucs. But the second game, you could tell it was kind of, edging with him a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I just think with Dak, you just have to kind of let him do his thing. But also, he needs to trust him. I think he trusts himself with doing it, but I think he needs to trust himself with not being scared to be hurt. With all
right. Kind of play fearless.
Yeah,
Right.
just if he doesn't have that mental, like, I might get hurt if I scramble or if I do this, then that's when he plays really well. He's very very hot, no homo. But
Well, we made it 15 minutes in
There we go.
with no comments. Those are all really good points. I'll give a little quick spiel. The most important thing about Dak this year, I'm fully comfortable with him having full reins of the offense, and I'm very excited to see what they're going to do. I've said that I think he won't blow up the scoreboard with numbers when it comes to like 35 plus touchdowns or whatever, but I think he's going to be extremely efficient because we'll be a controlled chaos. And the cool thing was last year, obviously we did not have the talent at wide receiver to kind of compensate our defense. And this year we've got pieces all over the place. I'm just super stoked to see what Dak maybe can do with Brandon Cooks, who he's already seen training camp. He's already kind of lighting it up. So very interested to see all that. So let's get into our TRAK Insights. So this is our first run at it, but I'm really excited for it. Obviously, we've got the medical guy. He's going to give us a little rundown of some medical injury analysis, his own little thing. All the information that is brought to attention is strictly from him. He gets full reign, kind of like Dak. As well as Ryan will follow the analyst, will give his statistical analysis, a little rundown as well. And then we'll move straight into tracking with the boys. So without further ado, medical guy, if you're ready to give the rundown, have at it, my friend.
Yeah. So kind of in the intro, how I got the medical guy title is I'm an athletic trainer, work on work in the medical field and primarily work with sports. And that's just kind of a quick intro. Since, a lot of this podcast has to do with Dallas and Dallas Cowboys, I'm gonna just stick this time or this segment to just the Cowboy injuries that have kind of popped up during camp and whatnot. And, the big one that everybody's wondering about is the Schoonmaker, the tight end. And so I read a little bit up on it today, and basically what he's dealing with is some plantar fasciitis. But I did read today on a report that he's planning to be back in practice and participating in practice here soon. And so that's a good sign. Now, like with the plantar fasciitis or plantar fascia, it's just a band on the bottom of your foot. Okay. And just like any other tendon or tendon or musculotendinous area, if it gets inflamed or anything like that, it swells up and it causes basically to pull on everything else, and then everything else hurts. I'm sure everybody's mom or dad or grandma has had some sort of plantar fasciitis where you roll your foot on the bottom of your foot on a can and ice it. And I mean, you know how that shit can hurt. I was just being a regular civilian. Just imagine trying to run. So I can understand why he may or may not be practicing as soon. However, it does kind of suck to see that the second round tight end, after having 3 serviceable tight ends, is just now practicing. But maybe that's a good thing. I do, and we've talked about this off script. How Mike McCarthy kind of handles injuries. He's pretty conservative with it and likes to take their time. And as someone from the medical side, I appreciate that. So that's kind of on him. Jordan Lewis got added to the PUP, the unable to perform list. His was a much more gruesome injury. He got injured last year after having a good year. Had a Liz Frank fracture. So basically what that is, if you look the kind of the middle of your foot, he fractured and tore some ligaments in that area. And normally when you have that, you have to have surgery to basically screw those bones back together. So not a fun surgery, very painful recovery. So that one's tough, but everything I've read, he's doing fine, but I doubt he's back by beginning of season and stuff like that. And I looked at a couple other ones on the list that they put. Obviously, Zach Martin's not an injury. Just his feelings are hurt. And so, but rightfully so. He's a holdout. And then the other one I didn't know about until I looked up today, and it's pretty recent, is Donovan Wilson. Has a right calf strain. And as we've seen in the past with all of or really just Dak with the right or the calf strain, is like it could really screw you up. And for especially someone that plays defensive back. I mean, you really need that explosiveness. So if you don't have that, you're kind of stuck out there. And so
Exactly. Yeah.
so usually those take a little bit. It's similar to like a hamstring. Like, you could be great one day and then step wrong, and then all of a sudden you're back to square one. So you just need to be pretty diligent about that and making sure just have them ready for a season and stuff like that. I think Ryan brought up a good point, like with Michael Parsons the other day. Watching him, it's like, hey, we don't need you doing nothing else. Just be ready for that. And I think that's kind of the same thing with some of those guys as well.
You practice way too hard in 2023 to be out there hitting the quarterback. This ain't the 90s and 80s. Like,
Yeah.
Stay off the red jerseys. Stay off the red jerseys.
from the angle, I know it's great. Like about that, he is just throwing any lineman who's in his way. He's just like, get out of my way, and then tap Dak. This one time, though, he decided to kind of go low.
Yeah.
And then everyone, you can just hear it in the background, like, "Ooh, no!" But luckily, everything's good.
Yeah, I would have loved to have Mike McCarthy mic'd for that one. Yeah.
Basically.
So, all right, a solid rundown from the medical guy. Obviously, Ryan, the season hasn't started yet, so statistical analysis, you probably had to dig for it. So we understand if yours is a lot shorter. But without further ado, let's get things rolling. The Analyst with his statistical analysis rundown and TRAK Insights.
Right. So a lot like Jacob, my name's the Analyst. The reason I got that name is one, as I stated before, I am a credit analyst for a bank. So, but two, when I played in college and in high school, I did a lot of analytical approach. I always took an analytical approach to the game in terms of studying my opponent to where I could line up in front of them on defense and tell you exactly what was going to happen. And so that's why I always did that. I film studied a lot, and that's where I kind of got my analytical approach towards the game of football from. I love the numbers. I love how plays come together. So it's just a short scripted version. And then in terms of my TRAK Insights, for those, I'm going to try during the season to give people some numbers that are not really being seen. So as of right now, the season just started today, Thursday. So for now, we're going to keep mine short and sweet. So one of the things that I'm bringing to the table today is I expect what I'm going to start with is some NFL news. So right now you've got a bunch of running backs that are not getting paid, and that stands by what I said. I understand they want to get paid, but it doesn't make logical sense for a football team that can go get a third or fourth round guy that can produce the same as a first round guy, and that's just the way it is. They got to figure out how to tackle that. Number two, with all those running backs that are out and about that are older or actually looking for teams, you've got Dalvin Cook visiting with the Jets. You've got Josh Jacobs right before camp saying screw that, going to the airport and taking off from Las Vegas. So he's not at camp. You've got Zeke on the waivers. You've got Kareem Hunt on the waivers, and you had Saquon Barkley bend the knee and just take $1 million more because that's what they're getting. So that wraps up the small little running back talk. In terms of other teams with some new faces, not really. He says he's going to stick football, but Jalen Ramsey is going to be out for a while. I expect Aaron Rodgers on the Jets to have a massive year. Hunter hit on it earlier. Michael Parsons put on 20 pounds and is throwing a 10-time All-Pro first-team tackle around like he's a tackling dummy. So that's awesome. And the one last thing I'll hit on that I think is kind of interesting, and I'm kind of supportive of it because I still call them this. The Commanders have a petition rolling around from their fans with the new owner since Dan Snyder's out. 20,000 signatures to change their name back to the Redskins. Last I checked.
Oh my God.
So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how they even changed it in the first place.
Yeah. Well, they changed it because
PC.
they're quote unquote racist, but it's like you got 20-something thousand signatures out there to change it back. So we'll see where that rolls up. But that's my TRAK insight this time around. When the season comes around, I'll have a lot more statistical stuff for you guys, and maybe throw in some bets in there that I like to see. So
Love it.
Would you put money if you went to Vegas right now on Aaron Rodgers to win MVP?
no, I think that there's other people out there that will have a better season, but I still think Aaron Rodgers is going to be top 5 quarterback this year. I mean, his team is freaking stacked. I don't think people realize how good the Jets really are, and so it's really just going to be up to, I guess, Salah, the coach, or Salah, however you say his last name.
Salah.
And then the fact that Aaron Rodgers also took a pay cut. He took a $35 million pay cut, basically to see if they could get something at the deadline. And a lot of rumors have been out there for Devontae Smith, but Devontae Adams, not Devontae Smith.
We'll cut that.
But apparently Devontae Adams is happy where he is, so we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, awesome. Those were our TRAK Insights from the medical guy and the analyst. They'll be on every so and now for the podcast, especially for the monthly fantasy football press conference. And so it's always fun, especially when we get into the nitty gritty. The division started, and we look up, and we're already 5 games in. We got all these stats and injuries to keep up with. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of concussions this year again because they can't seem to get that shit right. But moving on into our TRAK ranking segment. So normally in the future, we're going to be categorizing it by diamond, platinum, and gold, a lot like a TRAK record. Like Cody Johnson's a multi-platinum album, blah, blah, blah. So diamond is your 1, platinum's your 2, and gold's your 3. For this one, for the sake of time, we're going to be doing our TRAK ranking, just our diamond ranking. And we're going to be doing our top NFL touchdown celebrations of all time. Or the top NFL touchdown celebration of all time. The kid, I want to give you the honors to start this one off. I know you have a good one you've been waiting to tell everybody. So what is your diamond ranking for this pod?
My diamond ranking for this pod would be Thursday Night Football. It's the Cowboys versus Packers, 2008. Brett Favre goes down. Here comes Aaron Rodgers. Next thing you know, we're a good team this year. He's coming in, but one person puts it into that. His name is Terrell Owens. Grabs the popcorn from the fan and starts all over his face mask. And just seeing that as a kid, especially when I'm wearing the Thanksgiving jerseys, Thursday night I had to go over to my dad's friend's house because NFL Network was, you had to pay for it. We weren't paying for that shit. So just seeing that as a kid, that was definitely where I really was like, I'm going to watch this team because just the excitement of the popcorn just going like this. Just fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
I knew I was getting.
A little sus, but okay.
Love that. Medical guy, your diamond ranking.
Oh, I'm second. Okay. So I wrote down 4 of them just in case y'all stole them.
Smart.
So this might get a little criticism, whatnot. But I was just looking over some different videos, and I went more of the most disrespectful route.
There you go. That's kind of right.
Yeah, down to the nitty gritty.
And y'all are gonna be like, wait, this doesn't seem that disrespectful. But when I say it, so, and it happened against the Cowboys one time, and it made me so mad. But watching it now, I'm like, okay, I would do that if I was him. But the Cam Newton dab after scoring a touchdown, and it was just
exactly the one you're talking about.
Obviously, the dab was the end of it, but it was what led up to the dab. I mean, it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just and it wasn't fast or anything like that. I mean, yeah, just stomp Superman.
Yeah.
And it's just you're like,
Dude,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
trying
just
to push him away, and he gets pushed, and he's like, oh,
He
yeah.
gets it again.
Oh, yeah, one more time. One more time for the crowd.
And so it's, you couldn't do anything about it because he's 6'5", 250, and he I mean, if you could picture a Superman-esque human, that's what he was. And it was just it just made me so as a younger individual just made me so mad watching it. Like when you're young, but when you grow up and you're like, dude, yeah, that's kind of badass because you're playing against a bunch of other grown ass men, just like Hunter said, like getting pushed and like, oh my, like sorry, and he's just like, I just thought I went a more disrespectful route, and I just always thought that looking back on it, I just always would watch them and like, that's hilarious now.
Yeah. Yeah, the worst part about that, I know exactly what you're talking about, is that I think that was a game like Romo threw like 4 picks to Luke Kuechly.
Yeah,
and we were just like, it was the worst, one of the worst games I've ever watched.
Yeah, it was like a QB sneak, and it made the game like 29 to like 6, and like our defense is just getting ravaged.
Yeah,
and they're just like heads down, and this dude's doing like a 45-second just Superman dab, Superman. People pushing him. Oh, dab. It's like, oh
Yeah.
my god.
yeah. The Analyst, your diamond ranking.
All right, this one's a little bit more funny, but y'all remember, we all know Antonio Brown. You remember when he twerked on the Redskins after he caught the touchdown? That was so disrespectful. And looking back on it now, you're like, dude, this guy's insane. And,
Damn, he can.
He was throwing that thing back after scoring.
Yeah, that boy dropped down. Got it.
And then I got a really good one for college, actually. I didn't think any of y'all were gonna have this one. The Elijah Moore dog piss celebration was an old man.
Yeah,
He walked
yeah.
up to the goalpost, lifted his leg up after he scored.
Oh!
Yeah, that's totally worth the unsportsmanlike conduct. Like when you're up like 35-7, you catch that thing, you're like, and
Yeah.
done. So those are my two. Those are two diamond worth TRAK ranking celebrations right there.
Yeah, that one is. I got that one clipped on my phone. Like that one is still so funny. Whenever you mark in your territory. Yeah. So my diamond TRAK ranking of the week. This is my personal favorite because obviously I do a little commentating on the side, and I think I would say this exact same thing just to troll. And this is, if you invert the number 6, you get, or the number 9, you get 6. So I think they got it messed up because this was worse than January 6th. This is January 9th, 2005. Randy Moss scores a touchdown on the Vikings and goes to the goalpost and acts like he's mooning the crowd. And you got Joe Buck. Troy Aikman's doing his little analysis, and you got Joe Buck. That is a disgusting act. That is the worst thing. That is completely disrespectful, Troy. And
a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
Randy Moss, the number 1 wide receiver, like almost of all time. Obviously, he's one of the goats, and he scores. They're all just having a blast, and he just moons the crowd. That is a disgusting act.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Troy Aikman was like 4 double vodka sodas, like deep, trying to make him. He's looking at the wrong end zone, like, oh yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, 4-time now 5-time Hall of Famer, Troy Aikman. Holy shit! Yeah, the other one I thought Hunter was going to do this one because me and you were talking off the record. I thought you were going to do the Dak Conor McGregor walk because you said it for all my Dak folks. But that one was cool. He was strutting. He was jugging. He was cooking. Anyway.
I can't do a Dak one. It wouldn't fit the Romo sapien kind of look I got. The mask I got on right now.
Based.
Oh, you could have always done like the Romo one where he's on the ground and he just sticks a hand out when they score. Remember? He's like broken ribs or whatever.
The other one I had in mind was the whack-a-mole from this past season.
Yes.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a good one.
I wrote down Salvation Army pot celebration, just all of them.
Disrespectful, where he like acted like he put on a mask and like kicked the door down.
The other one that I almost did was the Marshawn Lynch. Turn around, grab the nuts when he jumped in the end zone. That one's pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked the our tight end group does a really good job at celebrations, but I liked the 2 that I'll highlight real quick was the lasso one on where they all scored in the end zone. Lasso one guy, tie him up, boom, done. And then the Amari Cooper basketball one they did when they lined up, and Hunter could tell me the basketball player's name for the Sixers. What was his name? He was the jiggle free throw shot.
Is it Markelle Fultz?
Markelle Fultz. Yeah, that was funny because that was a hot topic at the time. So, hell yeah. So those were our Diamond track rankings of the week. Now we'll get into the nitty gritty. This is our Tracking the Boyz segment. This is all things basically right now Cowboys training camp. So first off, we started padded practice not too long ago, and we all want to see what the rookies are doing. We want to see specifically what Mazi Smith is doing. So some quick notes about kind of a practice they had the other day. The common theme is that there's been high energy, and the coaches and players we're excited to get in the pads and get rolling. Strong days a lot for passing game, despite all this, scripted agendas throwing all these Dak picks on Instagram and Twitter, and Barstool's kind of taking a hold of that. But it's pocket watching, especially the Eagles. Eagles have been heavy pocket watching our training camp. And then Micah and D-Law back in the field. D-Law is healthy. Micah is being an animal, like we mentioned earlier. And then our kickers are making kicks when it matters, which is
Holy hell.
Yeah, I'd never thought I would see that in my lifetime. But let's get talking about some Mazi Smith metrics. Larry Allen, we all know him for all Cowboys, from freak of an athlete. So he was reportedly benching around over 500 pounds coming out of college. I'm sure he got stronger once he was in the NFL. Mazi Smith reportedly close grip benched 550 pounds.
Oh my God.
Which is insane.
That is insane.
That is unheard of. So I want to talk kind of first off about Mazi Smith and, all the things that we've seen from him in camp so far. We saw that slow start, but then he recovered, is what they were saying, against Tyron Smith, big ass dude. But you could just see the strength on this guy. And once this guy gets the hang of coming out of that 3-point stance and playing in the NFL, I mean, his strength and his metrics and his athleticism are going to catch up so fast. So I just want to hear, maybe thoughts from the analyst on this, on how we expect Mazi Smith to be implemented in this defense to start out, maybe kind of rotate with Jonathan Hankins, maybe be implemented as a first-day starter. What are your thoughts?
Well, for starters, I've seen a lot of big guys hit 5-man sleds. The ones that when you hit them, they pop back. Your coach sits on the back of them. There's a video that he was just him hitting it on the end. And he about took that fucking dummy and put it through a brick wall. I mean, he broke that thing and was like, and it went flying back. And I was like, yeah, see, that's what I want to see. So that he's strong as hell. I think what they'll probably do with him is kind of what they did with Parsons when they brought him in, is they let him play a little bit more in the preseason. So he'll probably get to play a little bit more than the starters. Usually your starters play like 1 or 2 drives and then they're out. Like he'll probably play like the first quarter and then he'll be done. So I think he's going to be pretty involved in the first and second downs for Dallas during the season.
Yeah.
Those rundowns where you're expecting them to try and run up the middle, and he's just going to swallow centers and guards. So, and that's what, like, to build off that, and I think we're going to talk about it, is like you're moving Micah Parsons down to just play defensive end this year, and he's going to be 20 pounds heavier, and Micah Parsons demands a double team most of the time. Like if he's not playing an all-pro guard or all-pro tackle, then he's going to demand, zone shades from the line. When they walk up to the line, they're going to be like, where's Micah Parsons? Okay, we're zone blocking this way. We're zone blocking to him. So now that you have Mazi Smith in the middle, it kind of takes away from Micah Parsons, which we all know is going to be very nice. So
yeah,
I think I said it when we did this earlier, but he's a perfect draft pick for Dallas. They need it for our whole freaking life. I can't think of anybody interior D line wise for Dallas that has been worth a damn. So I think
Tyrone Crawford? No.
Tristan Hill? Like, come
Tristan
on,
Hill, the
bro.
Gator roller?
Hey, but shout out Taco Charlton. He's on the 49ers now.
Yeah, have fun. We'll see you. We'll see you. We'll see you in February.
Peace squad.
Jacob, I don't know if you want to comment on Mozzie Smith real quick, or I'll ask you in a second. Actually, I'll ask Hunter about Jalen Tolbert here in a little bit, but I'll let you comment. I know you love Mozzie Smith. So I'll let you comment on Mozzie.
I really just have one thing to say about him, and it's his quote that he came out with this week, where he straight up said, "I don't give a shit about football. I just like hitting people," and it's like he straight quotes it.
Yeah,
I don't care about football. I just want to hit somebody.
That's like longest yard type quote right there.
Football guy.
Oh, yeah.
Football guy.
Yeah, like, will you teach me the football type stuff? Like,
I broke it in your quarterback.
Yeah, and so that's really all I care.
Okay, you should have a
sure.
You should have a hug with Prescott.
Like if a grown man says that to me, it's like, yeah, dude, go do what you want. Like,
Right.
yeah, you want a cold
Just
drink,
not
a towel,
off the
hot
field.
towel? Yeah, and so that's really all I have to say about him is like, you're playing with like some of the elite athletes of the world, and then dumb it down into offensive linemen, like some of the strongest athletes in the world, and you're just like, nah, I just want to hit these dudes. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So Jalen Tolbert obviously was a complete disappointment last year. He can't even line up correctly. We've seen some progress photos over the summer. He's been working out. Well, I damn sure freaking hope so that he's been working out. He's in the NFL.
3 months.
Right. So our, I think a movie about our offensive coordinator just came out. Brian Schottenheimer had some comments on Jalen Tolbert. He said, I asked him to see his notebook one day. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. How he has prepared his mind for a young player. You're talking about a second-year player. I was blown away. I told him that you need to save that, and I'm going to use that in front of the offense. It's dynamic. I'm talking highlights, and the penmanship is amazing. It's been through every install, and that's what this game requires. It's not just talent. He's figuring it out, but he's also working his ass off. Well, he damn sure needs to. And I know that we got some acquisitions this year. We got, obviously Brandon Cooks, and we got Michael Gallup. Hopefully he's going to be healthy off of his ACL atrociousness last year. We lost Noah Brown to the Texans, thug tier. Jalen Tolbert was supposed to be that third-round guy, that maybe that second team slot guy that can fill in on maybe a breather for CeeDee Lamb or Brandon Cooks. But what's your take on Jalen Tolbert? Do you expect anything out of him this year? Is there anything you want to see from him this year that's maybe realistic, maybe some OBJ numbers?
Yeah, so for Tolbert, for him, what I want from him is, one, just line up in the right spot when your number's called. That's for starters.
That'd be nice.
Line up in the right spot. But,
Hope that's in his book.
Just being like maybe like a T.Y. Hilton, because like with Brandon Cooks, and even if Michael Gallup should be tricky, because if he's still not the Michael Gallup, I think that will make Tolbert more of a valuable option. So if that was to happen, he needs to like step up when his number is called. But realistically, I'm thinking 25 catches, 250 yards, call a day. Like if you're on there, we're going 5 wide, maybe need a third down conversion, just, get the conversion. But it's hard to ask for so much from a guy like that, even though he was a third-round pick, when you trade for someone like Brandon Cooks and you paid Michael Gallup. You can't ask him to do too much. But, hey, props to him for being, what he's doing with the, prep, getting the mind right, because his number will be called at some point. And when it is, he needs to step up.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And everybody's got a role to play in this offense, and that's the cool thing. We got people like Kavontae Turpin, who's going to be his first NFL season where he's not been playing football for a damn tour like he's in Afghanistan. I mean, he was in the USFL and then transitioned directly into the NFL. So this is going to be his first year where he actually got a break. And he talks about this a little bit. I'm hoping to see a lot of utilization from KaVontae Turpin, a wide receiver that I really want to highlight that we've seen some highlights from in training camp so far this year is our 7th round pick from South Carolina, Jalen Brooks, number 83. He's had some really solid signs of maybe some potential deep threat, goal line type schematical plays and playmaking abilities. I think he's a 6'2", 6'1", 215 pounds, kind of the same size as Gallup, maybe an inch shorter. Maybe somebody that can replace Gallup once we maybe have to move off of him. But this is kind of Ryan's niche here. I want to talk about the Texas Coast offense, which we've kind of talked about a little bit. Kind of Schottenheimer was kind of talking about it again, how, it wasn't really a broken offense. They've done some good things over the last 5 to 7 years and really good since Dak came into the league, and it's kind of a veteran-based offense now, believe it or not. I mean, you got, besides the tight end room, CD you can kind of count as a young veteran. Brandon Cooks is a veteran. Dak Prescott now is 30 years old. Pollard's been in the league for 4 or 5 years. Ronald Jones, who probably won't make the roster, but still. With the pass protection being better, which is what Mike McCarthy said he was going to focus on, which is big for you. You're an offensive lineman. You played at Sam Houston for a little bit, so you like to pander towards those offensive linemen, which everybody should. They protect your quarterback, your crown jewel. With the keen focus on basically protecting your quarterback and making us not the 28th worst offense, how do you think that'll impact not just Dak's performance, but the play action game, the running backs, maybe people like Deuce Vaughn, KaVontae Turpin, and jet sweeps? How excited are you to have that improvement be utilized this year in 2023?
So I think I'll start with last year and what our problem was last year and why we ended up losing in the first place. So Kellen Moore's offense was basically supposed to be very technical. So it wasn't necessarily West Coast, but what I've been saying for a long time, and you guys can confirm this, is speed wins football games, and that's the teams that are winning. So you look at the Chiefs, they're able to stretch the field out not only with Patrick Mahomes' arm, but with speed. That's why Kelsey is so good, and that's why you see teams that are playing deeper into the playoffs are so good, is because they have guys that can stretch the field. So what a West Coast offense is meant to do is you take short and horizontal. I'm reading this straight off of a quote, but this is what it is. This is short horizontal passing routes that are meant to stretch out defenses. So you look at our team now, CeeDee Lamb's, incredible at that. You got Brandon Cooks, who's, leaves burnout trails behind him when he takes off the line.
Yeah.
And, Michael Gallup is a deep threat. He's really good at catching that long ball. So what they're going to try and do this year, and the reason I'm calling it Texas Coast, is it gives the quarterback, like I hit on earlier, the ability to dictate where the ball is going to go in terms of horizontal routes, throwing over the middle, stretching out those safeties so you have somebody coming underneath them. It gives the quarterback a lot of options. So, you talk quarterback and receivers, stretching the field out helps, and that helps Tony Pollard and the running backs too. But in terms of offensive line, where that's going to help is last year, Kellen Moore called a bunch of plays where Dak would just drop 5 steps and throw the ball, and it took forever to get the ball out sometimes. That was one of my main complaints. And that's, as a lineman, that's hard to sit there and do that every time because, Zeke last year, everybody knew we were running the football if we lined up in a certain formation. What I think that's going to do for them this year is it's going to give those linemen more time to block. And it's because you get less people in the box, less blitzing packages, because now you have to worry about, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Michael Gallup on this side. So it's like it will allow Dallas to kind of dictate the defenses that have been beating them in the playoffs. So, that takes the 49ers out of play. They just bull rushed us all game because they knew that we didn't have the opportunity to get time. So you get against these better offenses or better defenses, it's a better play strategy for Dallas in the long term, I think. So I think it'll be good for them. I think it'll be good for the offensive line. I heard they're kind of changing up some some blocking patterns, which is good for him too. And I've said this in our chat, but I think it's gonna like them getting Deuce Vaughn is also a sure sign teller that they're gonna try and throw to the running back more too. So that adds another weapon for not only for Dak, but it adds another weapon for the offensive line to get more time because now a linebacker actually has to worry about Zeke's not back there.
Right.
And Tony Pollard might not be, but Zeke's going to be a pass blocker. He's not catching balls. But now that you have Deuce Vaughn and Tony Pollard, one of those dudes is going to catch a football. So now as a linebacker, I got to worry about that and not rush Dak. So I think that would be good for him.
Yeah, and that leans perfectly into what I want to ask the medical guy. So Deuce Vaughn, we got this little midget running around the field, the most shifty dude I've ever seen so far in training camp. He's already kind of racking up some highlights, and I get it. Training camp, everybody's excited about something. I'm not trying to sound like NFL Rookie Watch on Twitter. I'm not trying to be annoying, but it is exciting to see those guys out there in pads, moving around, and it's cool to see something that we've never seen on our roster before. A small, shifty running back that can dice players. I mean, we had Lance Dunbar, but he wasn't 5'2". So with what Ryan was talking about with the Texas Coast offense, all the routes running horizontally, we're going to try and get our running backs involved in the passing game. Now I kind of see that Deuce Vaughn is probably going to make the 53-man roster. I mean, it seems he's the kind of the hometown kid. He's kind of like the guy we're going to build from the ground up. What kind of role do you see him playing with Deuce Vaughn, maybe kind of implementing him in some packages with Kevontae Turpin? You know, Ryan was mentioning each guy is going to have their own specific role. You got CeeDee Lamb in the slot. You got Brandon Cooks burning. You got Michael Gallup, controlling the sidelines. Pollard gashing at the middle. What do you think will be Deuce Vaughn and Kevontae Turpin's roles going forward in this 2023 offense this year?
The biggest thing with them, I think, is just going to be, and it sounds simple, as like letting your athletes play, right? Because that's what they are. They're fast, they're athletic, they're shifty, and kind of coming off what Ryan was saying about the West Coast offense is that a lot of it's meant to get the ball to your guys in space, right? And so that's where you have the horizontal stuff, the quick stuff, to where you get these guys that can make one step and they're by you. Or I mean, Deuce Vaughn doesn't really have to bend down, but he can move and be under you. Like you've seen it in some of these videos. Like
you'll lose him in the video.
He goes into what is honestly pretty interesting as well, is that a lot of videos that they showed, like he's been running like a traditional offense with him, and he gets to the line and he disappears, and then all of a sudden he's 7 yards downfield and someone's acting like they're wrapping him up. And so I really think they're gonna with Ronald Jones taking whatever he took from his general practitioner or whatever he said he took, that said didn't know what it was. It's like, brother, like your doctor literally tells you what you're taking.
Right.
I really could see him being like RB3, and honestly using him obviously as like a little bit of a playmaker, but I think he'll run the ball a little bit like a traditional like running back, because I mean, if you think about the offense he came out of, Kansas State, I mean,
very run heavy.
Yeah, they're not Texas Tech or TCU, like they're run heavy, and that's what he did well, is he got to the line, disappeared, and before you knew it, he was down the field. And so I think obviously everybody will expect him to be more of like that athlete out in space, swing pass, screen, whatever kind of thing. But I think he'll run more than, run more up the middle and run, kind of those zones runs a little bit more than we think that he's going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. All good points. And Hunter, I'll allow you to comment on that a little bit too, if you want to dive into that, obviously. But I was going to ask you, I think you're really, really excited about Micah Parsons. And we've seen him go probably 2,000% in practice so far, almost hurting our quarterback in some instances, but he is giving Tyron Smith a run for his money. You talk about like having a warm-up game or a warm-up activity. Training camp is perfect for Tyron Smith to kind of get back into the hang of things and stuff like that, which goes into protection. But I want to hear your take kind of on the defensive side of things. I mean, obviously we've got Trayvon Diggs, who just got paid. I think he's the 6th highest paid cornerback in the NFL, which I think is a steal. But with the 3 safeties we got, with Stephon Gilmore and Trayvon Diggs, with Micah Parsons on the edge now, no longer a linebacker, and an interior defensive line, and a healthy Marcus Lawrence, and yada yada yada. What do you expect? I guess maybe numbers-wise from Michael Parsons, and then on top of that, what do you want to see out of the linebacker group? With Van Der Esch there, and then we got some unnamed guys, maybe like Damon Clark, Devin Harper, Jabril Cox, all those kind of guys. Is this a tsunami defense, or are we going to warm this tsunami up and then get to that peak tidal wave mid-season? What do you expect from the defense this year?
No, I'm expecting the defense right from the get-go, week 1 against the Giants, to absolutely play smash-mouth football. We're going to have D-Law on one side. We're going to have Mozzie in the middle. We're going to have Micah Parsons on the other.
Yeah.
And then
that sounds sexy.
I like that.
They made the
oh, man.
It's like, Micah can't get to the quarterback every time because, one, they're going to hold him. They're not going to call it because it's to slow down the game. And Mozzie, we'll see. I bet you the first couple of plays he's probably going to grab the center by its neck, from longest yard, and just chunk him, like when they got all the penalties in the beginning. But, especially with someone like Daniel Jones, they're going to – they got protection now. Who's he going to throw it to? Stephon Gilmore?
Try again. You're
going to try to throw it to Darren Waller. You're going to be covered by Jaron Kearse. Then you're going to
try again.
Deron Bland, who's more of a slot corner anyway. With all this said, they're not going to be they get better as the year goes on. I think they're going to be top 5 defense all year long. Probably going to be 1 or 2 in scoring defense. I don't see this team giving up more than 16, 17 points a week, which is not bad at all for the way the league is now. And I will say this. What is up with the Trayvon Diggs slander that I'm always hearing on Twitter?
Man.
This in general, what does he have to do? So they say, he had 11 picks, but he gave up 5,000 yards according to PFF. And then he's like, okay, so let me become a lockdown corner. People are not going to throw my side. He
didn't have 11 picks.
There's but he only had 3 picks. It's okay, do you want him to lock down the guy, or do you want him to,
Right. Yeah, it's never enough.
And I just don't get that. And then with the linebackers, I think Jabril Cox is going to have a most improved year out of all the linebackers that are on our team.
Okay.
I like Clark. I do like Clark because of his speed. He's
he's a sideline to sideline type of guy. Yeah.
I've seen Mike McCarthy make comments about Jabril Cox. I can't really remember what it said, but I did see some. They were very good comments, though. And just with Landon Van Der Esch, us getting them on a very fair deal. What was it, 2 years, $11 million?
Yeah, it was we were paying less than $5 million, or right around $5 million a year for the guy, which
for someone who's a Walmart version of Sean Lee for the defense, I think definitely. When Sean Lee was having to command the troops, our defense was atrocious. We had no really any DBs. We didn't have good safeties. Our pass rush was But with Van Der Esch, with all the pieces on the outside and inside, you don't really need him to do much except, kind of just control.
Just fill the hole.
Be like
exactly.
Just stick your head in a hole and be a white linebacker and just put your head down.
As long as he's not going to play like Jalen Smith, who, if you're on a counter, you're going to get him every time because every time he sees a hole, he attacks it. Oh, here goes a halfback counter. But yeah, the linebackers are going to, not have too much to do with the defense itself. But, if they're struggling, it's not going to be too much of an L, but it could, cause it. And I think Van Der Esch and Jabril Cox are going to really handle it this year.
Yeah.
Top 2 defense coming up.
Reminder that Jabril Cox last year was coming off an ACL too. So that
Yes.
kind of gets swept under the rug because of the Gallup thing, but he also was coming off an ACL surgery too.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
one more reminder, this will be Dan Quinn's 3rd season with Dallas, just as a strictly defensive coordinator, and it's gotten better and better each year. So
Better and better each year, and we're retaining the same guys.
yeah,
So one of the guys, there's 2 guys I want to highlight and talk about briefly on the defense that I'm most excited to see is Darren Bland in the slot. You know, having the problem of who you're going to play, Jordan Lewis or Darren Bland, is such a good problem to have, because Jordan Lewis, when he's covered up by 2 elite corners, is a solid cornerback in the slot. You don't have to put him on the outside. This is the most depth at cornerback we've had in years. But I think Darren Bland's going to take that young, energized approach into the nickel corner slot, and he'll have a solid season. You know, they're going to have to attack him. Those are the 2 guys they're going to attack because, you know, the outside's covered with the top 2 A-plus tiered cornerbacks. And another guy in training camp who's had a pretty solid beginning is Nashawn Wright. So, you know, maybe we'll see some things out of him this year. One of those long, lengthy Legion of Boom, you know, schemed cornerbacks. So, anyways, that kind of wraps up. Go. What's up?
Defense is definitely kind of built like the Legion of Boom, because I mean, our safeties, we have Donovan Wilson, and I think if you played 10 years ago when you're actually allowed to hit people, I think there'd be a lot more people, you know, out the game with Donovan Wilson playing, because, you know, he's coming headhunter, just beat.
Me and you were talking about his hit on Dalvin Cook a couple of years ago, where he came out of nowhere.
Crucified him.
Yeah, I thought I was like, holy shit, he's dead. And I was like, I was in my bedroom, or I was in my living room all alone, like eating like jalapeno cheddar Cheetos, bro. And I was like, he's dead. Like, it's football right there. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm very excited. You know, of course, as an Aggie, I like watching Donovan Wilson play. This is a guy. He's a raw dog kind of football player. So, and obviously, you know, we don't even need to talk about it, but I wanted to mention it. CeeDee Lamb, super stoked to have him back on the field again this year. I have high expectations for CeeDee Lamb. That dude has been cooking. He is cooking. I'm super excited. I already see that broom week 1. Let's get into our Mamas Don't Let You Cowboys segment. This is kind of our headline, as I mentioned earlier, where we're going to show what the Cowboys shouldn't allow or do. It's kind of just like a little quick headline, something that, you know, I'll go down the line. And if it makes it easier, I can start to kind of give you all an idea of how it's. I'll do that. So, Mamas, don't let your Cowboys let Deuce Vaughn get tackled by Micah Parsons. That is mine. I don't want to see Deuce Vaughn get wrapped up by that dude. Let him get to week 1. The kid, you want to give your mamas?
Mamas, do not let Zach Martin not play this year.
Yes.
We're a little. We didn't drop that guard in the 2nd round. We got a tight end. We're a little slim there.
Yeah.
And we definitely need the future Hall of Famer to be on that line. So, Mamas, do not let the Cowboys not pay Zach Martin. Give him what he wants.
99 overall, ranked 68th in the top 100. Make that make sense. All right. The Analyst.
I was between 2, but I think with all this offensive talk, I'm going to say, Mamas, don't let the Cowboys let Dak get hot. That's what I'll say. Don't let him get hot, because I feel like with this is the best team he's had since 2019. So I would say, Mamas, don't let your Cowboys let Dak get hot.
And medical guy.
Mine's going to be a little different, but Mamas, don't let your Cowboys go into the season with a half-ass kicker.
Yes.
Find a kicker that's worth a shit, give him a little money, so we don't get into a playoff game and miss 5 extra points in a row. Or don't bring back Brett Maher because, you know, we had Slapdick from USFL and Canadian Football League over here, and both of them pulled their hamstrings going into week 1, and then we got to go pick up, Travis May to kick field goals for us. So, like,
hey, that's a bad idea.
You don't have to put a banner on the side of AT&T Stadium like, "Can you kick a football? Please sign up."
Right, next to
Invincible movie, like when they did tryouts for the Eagles with Vince Vaughn, they're gonna do that for the Cowboys. Be like, well,
yeah, exactly. Just put a little effort into finding a kicker. Don't say we're looking for everybody. Just go look for everybody.
And I will say this, the running backs are talking about kickers make this much. I will say a kicker is more important than a running back at this point of the game. I just will say that.
Shut your mouth, Hunter. It is not.
A kicker, unless you just take kicking out the game, you really do need a kicker because I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Justin Tucker is, yes. Brett Maher is not more useful than Tony Pollard right now.
Think about some of Tom Brady's Super Bowls. Think about how we have lost games. Think about on both sides of the ball where we had a field goal kicked on us and also where we couldn't kick a field goal. When we had Dan Bailey, you're just like, oh, that's money,
3 points.
Yeah, it's money.
Yeah, I can actually turn around from the TV and grab some water. When I watch Brett Maher kick, I see God in his eyes, the fear of God.
Instead of grabbing the water, and you're like,
sitting on my couch like this. We could be up 27. I'm still going to sit there like this. Please just get some confidence. Hit this 30-yard field goal.
The Rook and I were watching the recap of the 49ers and Cowboys playoff game last year, a couple weeks ago, and it was like, Brett Maher was kicking like a 25-yard field goal, and I was like, oh, my God, I forgot if he makes this or not. Like, why are we thinking it's a 25-yard field goal?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mess. Same thing with Greg Zuerlein back in the day. But all I'll say is don't ever allow a May to kick the ball.
I would rather play a kicker than a running back.
Yeah, well, the perfect example was that 49ers game when we had a one-legged running back out there and saw how well that went.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny now that Hunter says that after years of convincing him that we don't need to pay a running back. So it's happy to have you on our team and be hard conservative on it. So we
got him.
Well, running back has not been our issue last year. Our biggest issue was the fucking kicker.
He's not wrong. Right? It's
Hunter's not wrong at all. I just think it was funny. He's like, we don't need to pay our running backs. We need to pay. We'd rather pay a kicker. I was like, it's funny how the tide turns a little bit.
Good punter, good kicker. You can solve a lot of problems on both sides of the ball if you can just get those two things out.
Yeah, you can't solve the war in Ukraine. So
take that into your strategy when you draft for fantasy this year.
Yeah,
please.
Justin Tucker in the 5th round. Yeah. Well, let's get into our deluxe tracks. This is obviously, if you've been here, you know what the deluxe tracks are. You know how it is. I'm gonna go first. The kid will follow. Just little quick headlines, 2 each from us. So my deluxe tracks are Max Scherzer was traded to the Texas Rangers along with Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton from St. Louis. A lot of big moves from the trade deadline this year, but that was the biggest. Obviously, Hunter probably has his with the Astros, but I wanted to have my end of the bargain. Max Scherzer, it was pretty exciting to get a guy like that. Aaron Rodgers, as Ryan mentioned earlier, took that $35 million pay cut, so I want to skip that one. So Ryan kind of stole that one from me, but no problem at all. I want to talk about Jonathan Taylor. He requested a trade, and he's lying or maybe not lying about this back injury. Jim Irsay is transporting a dolphin or a whale or an orca or something for like millions of dollars across the planet because he can, was literally what he said. And I think Jim Irsay has taken the reins for the worst NFL owner of all time. So whatever the hell is going on in Jonathan Taylor's life right now, we'll take him off your hands for cheap. Well, those are my deluxe.
To comment on that, the Jonathan Taylor. So what the Colts tried to do is say he had a back injury for like a long-term. What would be a long-term IR? Well, they wouldn't have to pay him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So that's why he got pissed and was like, well, where did a back injury come from? And so it was really kind of some shady shit going on over there at the Colts.
Yeah, I don't think he's actually hurt. I think they're just trying to dog him. So
Yeah.
And that's some pretty low standards not to pay a running back. That's they're just making up injuries at this point. At least with some running backs, you can just be like, yeah, they're just not it. Jonathan Taylor's like, where the fuck did I get a back injury from?
He walked
I'll tell you where my
in.
back's hurting from. Is carrying this goddamn team.
Yeah. Well,
Like, who the fuck diagnosed me?
while he was sleeping, they were like, inject something into his back. Oh.
That's one of those where Mr. Earthshay went to the head physicians and doctors and athletic trainers, went to their places of living, and hey, here's a box. It may or may not have a couple $100,000 of cash in it, and Jonathan Taylor needs a back injury tomorrow. So let's make that happen, guys. So
If you don't, you're fired.
yeah, you die.
Hunter, your deluxe tracks.
Well, my deluxe tracks for the week, I've been putting a lot of Astros talk in there. I know some people like Kozo, really don't enjoy when I say the Astros suck or they're playing shitty. But, I'm just kind of trying to give them motivation to do better. Yes, we did get Verlander off a trade. He's back in the Big H. But Valdez threw a one-walk no-hitter with 93 pitches, which is the lowest no-hitter since 1999. And maybe just that was right after the Verlander trade, so maybe, get a little feel in. I was watching Christian Javier. He was struggling a little bit earlier, but I believe it's 3-4 Yankees right now.
It's 4-3 Yankees in the bottom of 7.
I saw Kyle Tucker hit a home run in the 6th.
Yeah.
So
Pay that man.
Astros are only half a game back from the Rangers. If we lose today, it'll be a game, but I think given time, we will eventually pass up the Rooks team. Sorry, Rook. And Trump pleads not guilty to 2020 election charges. And, it's just every time
Whoa.
closer to the election, you're just going to keep seeing more. He did this. Biden has his little hand in the deep state, with the sun and everything. You got the girl, whatever. I don't even like, what's her name? The black girl. What's her fucking name?
Kamala?
No. Jean. Whatever.
The Speaker of the House?
Secretary.
Press secretary.
You got her, and I didn't want to answer one question about anything, that could contradict the president or even the left side. So, with that being said, Trump pleads not guilty. I don't know what the charges can possibly be, but that's that. And that will be my deluxe tracks of the week.
Oh, in a different day, we talk a whole lot about that. It's all optics. But that leads us perfectly into not the Trump thing, but the Verlander and the Scherzer thing leads us directly into the Astros Rangers AL West race, which is not a type of person; it's an actual race. But the cool thing about the Astros and Rangers is that we are a half game back, and that we both have 60+ wins, and we both made moves at the trade deadline. This is kind of an open debate. We won't go in order here, but let's just talk some baseball. This is something that we've all been kind of eager to do, and we're getting closer and closer to October baseball. I'm interested to see what will happen when the Astros get, Michael Brantley back in the lineup. I'm interested to see, because, obviously Jordan came back and we pegged his ass, and then we got into a fight, which I predicted in the second inning when it happened. I was like, yeah, we're getting in a fight today. Y'all pegged Semien. Lowe hits a home run. Nathaniel Lowe gets pegged. Semien stomps on home plate. And Maldonado, who's batting 130, gets all up in our grill and starts talking all this mess. Chaos breaks out. Houston writers say, oh, my God, this is outrageous behavior by Marcus Semien. So I have me and Ryan talked about it when we went to Dallas the other weekend. I don't like Houston writers. I don't mind the fans too much. Like, y'all guys are fine. I've met a lot of Astros fans that are very heinous towards me, whatever. But the Houston writers are delirious, in my opinion. It's worse than Cowboys Twitter right now, in my opinion. I don't know what y'all's thoughts are in that, but
So the only riders I really pay attention to for Houston is Brian McTaggart.
Okay.
I like him.
I need to follow him.
He's pretty good, and he didn't say anything about whatever the heinous acts of Simeon. I mean, if you put one on 59 out there, you can do whatever you want. Basically they're hitting the side of the building up there. Like if you hit it out of the whole park, hit it up there, you could cartwheel around. I don't care. That's kind of the only one I really follow, and he's pretty even keel.
Yeah. Well, who do y'all think's gonna win the race?
I don't know.
Go ahead, Ryan. No, you go ahead.
That was a Zoom meeting. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm muted.
Hunter, go ahead.
I'm
Go
muted
ahead.
my mic. Go ahead.
Okay.
The fuck?
I think the Astros probably end up winning it just because they've been there before.
No.
I think the Astros, once they get Brantley back in the lineup, and Jordan kind of gets used to seeing some pitches again, in an MLB setting, I think they'll end up probably winning it. But I would definitely say that the Astros and Rangers will probably end up, going at it in the playoffs. So, last time I checked, Rangers were one of the best hitting teams in the MLB. So, I don't know if that's still true or not, but I know
That is
they
correct.
got some dogs on that team too. So.
We just got Corey Seager back. I don't want to let Hunter lose his thought. Go ahead, Hunter.
Well, I was gonna say, I placed a little bet on Corey Seager today to get one hit, and he went 0 for 5, and I was like, you score all these runs. Yesterday you went off. All these people. Seaman got a hit today.
Simeon.
So I call him Seaman just to piss off you.
With history, we don't know if you were trying to say the name correct or not.
Well, it's on the record now, and Kyle Fucker is going to have a pretty good day tomorrow as well. So.
Yeah, there's Hunter.
There it is.
Kyle Tucker, that man, no batting gloves. When we had all the injuries, Altuve was in and out of the lineup when he came back. Jordan's gone. Him and Bregman and also Diaz very stepped up in the absence, especially Kyle Tucker. I was very, very impressed by it. And I don't know. I guess I was one of those fans. It took me a while. It took me a couple years to actually start to really appreciate what Kyle Tucker brings to the table. And then especially in the, when they lost to the Nationals.
19.
Maybe it
That was
was one of those where
I was there.
It was
For one of them. Y'all walked it off.
it was Kyle Tucker he's grown on me a lot. Still want a Jordan jersey. Wish he spoke English a little bit so he could talk to the reporters, but
He has a translator.
Yeah, but I want to hear it out of him. I don't want the guy to tell me what he's saying. I don't know.
Yeah, Kyle Tucker needs to get paid. That's for damn sure. He held the reins. I mean, think about it. Hunter made this good point. We were beefing or whatever about the Astros and Rangers earlier today or yesterday, and he was saying we've been hurt. Astros have been hurt, and we went on this run. I was like, that's very true. That's very true. I mean, y'all didn't even have a Jordan, but Kyle Tucker's been holding it down for you guys, and he's not just a great hitter; he's a great fielder as well. The good thing about the Astros and Rangers, I don't know if we're on the back end of the Astros farm league, kind of dissipating. The Rangers, though, did a very good job of not giving away our prospects. We've got people like Jack Leader and the other Vanderbilt guy and Wyatt Langford, who we drafted, who's already moving up, I think, to AA pretty soon. It's this is the first time I've heard of our farm league system actually being worth a shit. And I'm excited. I'm so happy we didn't trade for somebody like Shohei Ohtani. I don't want to be the guy that gets him, the sucker that gets him and has to pay gobs amount of money for 2 players, basically. And then our farm league is plummeted. We trade, Jack Leader and all these guys over to the Angels, and they're going to do what with them? Trade them to somebody else and just move them around the entire fucking United States. I was very happy with what Chris Young has done. I'm hoping not butchering his name. I'm pretty sure it's Chris Young, our GM. Yeah, I said that and I thought of the country singer, and I was like, it's not him. But I know he's the old left-handed pitcher that used to play in the MLB.
I saw the MLB rank the Astros has the worst farm system right now. And,
See, I don't believe that. Like, I think we're on the rise, I think, because we drafted well. We've got those Vanderbilt pitchers that I've mentioned. We've got, I think, a 17-year-old dude that's
He said the Astros.
Astros.
Not the
Oh, my
Rangers.
bad. Sorry.
Well,
thank you,
and I
guys.
mean the reason being is that people say the Astros didn't get penalized for the cheating scandal and everything like that. They did, because the whole organization had to pay $5 million. They had obviously got their owner, GM, basically fired, and then one thing that gets knocked under the radar. And what the Astros are very good at are international signing bonuses and international signings taken away for a couple of years. And their first and second round, I want to say it's first, second round draft picks for 3 years in a row got taken away. So they didn't get to draft a first or a second round prospect for three years. So, that's why that's why their farm system's depleted. But I mean, the MLB always comes out and says that the Astros farm system sucks, and then they find some random dude like Framber Valdez who they signed for $10,000 out of the DR, and he's literally that was his signing bonus.
$10,000.
And I mean, same with like Altuve. Altuve was signed for like he was cut and then came back, and like they basically handed him like a sandwich and a water and said like, yeah, you can stay on the Astros. And it's like, and so, to answer the original question is like, I mean, obviously being an Astros fan, like I'm going to pick the Astros. I think, obviously the experience, but going back to like the injuries, like, Altuve has missed 60 to 70 games this year. Jordan's missed 40 something. A lot of things that people don't realize is that Jose Urquidy only made 6 starts this year. Mm-hmm. Luis Garcia only made 6 starts this year. Lance McCullers, who's been he's been in the doctor's office more than he's been in an Astros jersey in his career, is out this year. Yeah. And then we also lost Justin Verlander. So from last year, we ran a 6-man rotation. The Astros lost 4 of their prime contributors. So they lost about 80% of their innings from last year. And so to be, to put it in perspective, it'd be like if the Rangers, didn't have, obviously don't have DeGrom, but Eovaldi, Perez, and then you also went and lost Seager and Simeon for a majority of the season. So to be competitive, it really is, impressive. To even be a half game back is impressive.
Yeah.
But one quick note on the Rangers, and not that I'm the biggest fan of them, but I really do appreciate them going out and like getting players like Seager and Simeon. Like I really like what the A's are doing over in Oakland sucks, and I hate that. And I it's kind of like, hey, you want to win, you got to spend a little money, and they went out and did. And as a fan, like I appreciate that.
Yeah. Ryan, if you have any comments, I'll let you go.
I don't really have any comments. Okay. I like both the teams. I grew up an Astros fan, though, so I'm not like a huge, screw the Rangers guy. So I like to see that both Texas teams are actually like battling it out. It's good for Texas. So
yeah, and I'll speak a little bit on the Rangers. I agree. I think it was very good for us to bring in high dollar players, and we hadn't had any in a while. We've kind of had those. We're kind of like the Mets. We were an older team. We had these, and then became a younger team. And then the cool thing about this year is that Seager was hurt. He's been hurt for, I'd say, like half the season, and we went on that run to begin the year. And then Seager came back, and the dude was caught up to everybody in RBIs and home runs, batting 350 on the year, and which is something that's pretty unheard of. And so he's been phenomenal. And to have a guy like who definitely the Astros could definitely use somebody like this. Anybody could, because it's so uncommon now as a catcher that can actually fucking hit and play defense. Thing about Jonah Heim is that he's one of the top catchers who have like made strikes that weren't actually strikes in the radar, but they become strikes because of his framework. And he bats 270 plus with almost 20 bombs and 60 plus RBIs, currently. That's not common,
Like
for
Joe Mauer.
Yeah, like Joe Mauer back in the day, and Buster Posey kind of guy. And it's rare. It's very rare. And we have him for cheap right now. He's one of our younger guys. Aroldis Chapman coming in from the trade deadlines. We're going to be knocked out of the championship from y'all from that. But, we already saw a little preview of that a couple weeks ago.
Maldonado doesn't hit consistently, but I will say when they need a hit, he definitely always delivers. I don't know what it is, but Maldonado.
Hold on, maybe I need to fix my mic. You say Maldonado?
Yeah, bro. When y'all need it most, Maldonado, who's batting 130, comes in clutch.
Yeah, those 10 at bats that we needed, he only gets a hit 1.7 times out of those. So yeah, majority of the year, like what Jared's saying about having a catcher that can catch and hit. It's insane because the Astros have one, and they put him at DH and don't catch him, and continue to put a guy that is batting 170 out there. And I really don't care about his so-called defensive metrics. There have been so many stats out there, and taking a card out of the Analyst playbook, but there's so many defensive metrics out there that show that Diaz has been worlds better than Maldonado. But I don't run a baseball team, so that's all I'm saying. I don't run a baseball team. I don't have 2,500 wins or whatever. I get it. But I'm just saying, from afar, not a good look.
Yeah. Well, I think y'all got the momentum right now. These are my closing statements. We'll move on to our track records of the week. I think y'all got some forward momentum right now, a little bit more than us. So I think y'all will pass us pretty soon. I do think the Rangers will actually end up winning. I think we're going to be catching some fire once Scherzer and Eovaldi gets back. He's on the 15-day IL. So once we get back in our rhythm, I think we'll be neck and neck, 95 plus wins each, and I can't wait to see us battle in the playoffs. So good luck to both teams. But let's get into our track records of the week. This is our lyric, artist, or song you want to highlight each week. I'm going to start with the Analyst. Allow you to go first. We'll move to the medical guy, the kid, and now I'll close this out, and then we'll close out the episode.
Mine's kind of a forward-looking approach. If anybody knows me, they probably saw this coming.
I knew it.
Cody Johnson, the painter, is coming out August 14th. And then if you know me at all, you know that I love some 80s and 90s country music. And he announced that on his album, it's going to be a double album, 12 to 15 new songs, and then 12 covers of all of his favorite, back in the day. So it's,
that's going to be nasty.
They said Merle Haggard, Conway Twitty, Willie Nelson, and then I've heard George Strait too. So we're talking some hardcore, hunting bangers coming out in November, December. That's what I needed for my hunting trip. So my track record of the week is The Painter. It comes out August 14th. I'm ready for that. Get it injected into my veins. I'm ready for some new country music. So
love it. The medical guy.
So I'm gonna go. I guess a little different, but still kind of in like a southern rock slash country. So the song I'm gonna pick, and it was actually my mother-son dance at my wedding and it was "Simple Man" by Leonard Skinner.
That's a great song.
You're gonna laugh.
And it has a ton of good, like, if you look at it, it's literally just like one-liners throughout the song. But the part I like in it, and especially with football going on and everything being so crazy right now, one of the lines is, "Take your time, don't live too fast. Troubles will come and they will pass." And so it's just kind of something to sit back and think about, like when everything's moving, everything's going crazy. It's like, hey, it'll pass. Not long ago we bought a house, our AC went out. It sucked really bad because it's super hot, but guess what? It ended up getting fixed and everything was all right, and you can just chill out for a little bit. So that's mine.
Love that. You'll love mine.
Have you heard the plankton version of Simple Man?
I've heard the SpongeBob one, I think.
You ever heard plankton? You mean go?
Well, hold on, Hunter. You go last then, because that was my track record. That was my track. Yeah,
No shot.
I'm serious, dude. That's why I said when he was like the Simple Man, I said, "What are the odds?" So yeah, I have Simple Man from Plankton AI. I want to play y'all a little snippet of it right quick.
Oh my god!
If you are, yeah, let's get this on.
And don't forget that there is a someone up above, and be a simple. Come down the man.
Oh my
That's
god, man!
God,
Yeah. Who the fuck hurt Plankton? That's what I want to know, man. Oh my god. Yeah, they got a bunch of those on there.
He is putting his heart into that.
Yeah.
Dude, we heard that and started laughing for probably about 20 minutes. Like that shit was stupid.
Yeah, that's good stuff. He's got a whole album on there. They like assembled all the ones they had. Billie Jean was his other one. Billie Jean from Plankton was really good. All right, well, Hunter, I'll let you close it out. Sorry, I didn't want to let that moment pass. I was like,
I'm sorry for doing that. That's
No, that's hilarious though.
no, I didn't. Nobody knew.
irresponsible.
They're so responsible.
So my track of the week is gonna be Drake Views, and the lyrics are,
Classic.
"They rather run up on me than towards their goals." And basically just saying,
Hey,
we want to make this podcast big, and people try to, question it or critique it, and it's like, instead of critiquing our shit or whatever, why don't you go do your own goals? Like, why are you trying to run up on me like that?
pocket watching.
And it just kind of, I like that song. I listened to it today, and I was like, damn, Drake really did hit the core like that.
Damn.
Yeah, after y'all's Plankton song, you threw on Drake Views. Yeah, that's what it was.
Hell yeah, solid. Those were our first track records with the contributors. So yeah, we appreciate you guys coming on to the pod. This was solid. This is going to be kind of like the format's going to be kind of this way the whole rest of the year. However, when you guys come on, we'll ask you guys, maybe one of you guys at a time, maybe both of y'all at the end of the month. We definitely want y'all both for the monthly press conference. But obviously, there's a big injury for the Cowboys. The medical guy will be called. If there's some amazing stat metrics that we want to get poised, the analyst is going to be called and give that little 2-minute, 3-minute rundown, and then dip. You know what I'm saying? So we really appreciate you guys coming on today. We'll be looking forward to that monthly press conference and week one. We might have you guys back on week one. We'll coordinate. But yeah, let's talk about fantasy football next. We got that to figure out. But appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for coming on. And I will catch y'all after the pod.
Always a pleasure.
Oh yeah, thanks for having us on, man.
Absolutely. All right. Y'all have a good rest of y'all's night. We're going to wrap this up. Appreciate y'all. All right. So, yeah, let's close this thing out. So, follow us on Spotify at the TRAK Pod. Just search us at the TRAK Podcast on Spotify. You can download and like this message. You can share it with your friends. You can view it on YouTube as well. We're on Instagram for any inquiries or contact information. You can contact us at trak.pod on Instagram. We're going to be on TikTok, but I don't like the algorithm over there, so I'm trying to play with all of it. But the kid, back next Wednesday.
Yes, sir. We're going to be ready.
This was a solid pod. This week. Oh, shit. All right. Y'all take it easy. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, have a nice night.